Buenos días a todos y todas.
Good morning, everyone.
I express my appreciation to the government of Colombia and South Africa for convening this group and to all members of the group, its founding members, first and foremost, for their principled stance, and the others who are joining. May you keep growing and show the strength and effectiveness of your concrete actions. I would like to also thank the Secretariat for its tireless work, and last but not least, the Palestinian experts, individuals and organizations who traveled to Bogotá from occupied Palestine, from historical Palestine, otherwise known as Israel, and other places of the diaspora or the exile, to accompany this process after providing the Hague Group with outstanding evidence-based briefings. And of course, thanks to all of you who are here today. It is absolutely important to be here in a moment that might prove historical indeed. There is hope that these 2 days will move all present to work together to concrete measures to end the genocide in Gaza and hopefully end the erasure of Palestinians in the little that remains of Palestine. Because this is the testing ground for a system where freedom, rights and justice are made real for all. This hope that people like me hold tight is a discipline we all should have. I have to say that it's not easy to speak after you, Dr. Ahmed, all the more because right now, as a European, I feel a wrenching sorrow inside me. Because as you were speaking and recounting what, unfortunately, I've had to see happening day by day over 648 days, the European Union decided not to suspend the ties with Israel. The occupied Palestinian territory today is a hellscape. In Gaza, Israel has dismantled even the last UN function, humanitarian aid, in order to deliberate, starve, displace time and time again, or kill a population they have marked for elimination. In the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, ethnic cleansing advances through unlawful siege, mass displacement, extrajudicial killing, arbitrary detention, and widespread torture. Across all areas under Israeli rule, Palestinians live under the terror of annihilation, broadcast in real time to a watching world. There are very few Israeli people who stand against genocide, forever occupation and apartheid, while the majority of the Israeli society openly cheers and calls for more, remind us that Israeli liberation too is inseparable from Palestinian freedom. The atrocities of the past 21 months are not a sudden aberration. They are the culmination of decades of policies to displace and replace the Palestinian people. And against this backdrop, it's inconceivable that political forums from Brussels to New York are still debating recognition of the state of Palestine, and not because it's unimportant, but because for 35 years the states have stalled, refused recognition, pretending to invest in the Palestinian Authority, while abandoning the Palestinian people to Israel's relentless, rapacious territorial ambitions and unspeakable crimes. Meanwhile, political discourse has reduced Palestine to a humanitarian crisis to manage in perpetuity, rather than a political issue demanding principled and firm resolution, and permanent occupation, apartheid, and today genocide. And it's not the law that has failed or faltered, it is political will that has abdicated.
So far, we've heard her call out European complicity and frame this as a legal obligation, not a moral choice. But watch what happens next. She makes the apartheid comparison explicit.
And today, we are also witnessing a rupture. Palestine's immense suffering has cracked open the possibility of transformation, even if this is not fully reflected in political agendas yet. A revolutionary shift is underway, one that, if sustained, will be remembered as a moment when history changed course. And this is why I came to this meeting with a sense of being at a historical turning point, both discursively and politically. First, the narrative is shifting. In Brussels, they might have not realized, but it is. Away from Israel's endlessly invited self-defense and toward the long-denied Palestinian right to self-determination, systematically invisibilized, suppressed, and delegitimized for decades. The weaponization of anti-Semitism applied to Palestinian words and narratives and the dehumanizing use of the terrorism framework for any Palestinian action, from armed resistance to the work of NGOs pursuing justice in international arena, has led to a global political paralysis that has been intentional, and this must be redressed. The time is now. Second, and consequentially, we are seeing the rise of a new multilateralism, principled, courageous, increasingly led by the global majority. And I'm glad many of these countries are here. It pains me that I have to see these include robustly European countries, because as a European, I fear the region and its institutions have come to symbolize I fear what the region and its institutions have come to symbolize to many. A sodality of states preaching international law, yet guided more by colonial mindset than principle, acting as vassals to the US empire, even as it drags us from war to war, misery to misery, and when it comes to Palestine, from silence to complicity, from apartheid to genocide. But the presence of European countries at this meeting shows that a different path is possible. To them, I say, the Hague Group has the potential to signal not just a coalition, but a new moral center in world politics. Please engage more, stand with them more robustly. Millions are watching, hoping for leadership that can birth a new global order rooted in justice, humanity, and collective liberation. It's not just about Palestine. This is about all of us. Principal states must rise this moment. It does not need to have a political allegiance, color, political party, flags, or ideologies. It needs to be upheld by basic human values, those which Israel has been mercilessly crushing for 21 months now and counting. Meanwhile, I applaud the calling of this emergency conference in Bogotá to address the unrelenting situation in Gaza. So it is on this that the focus must be were symbolically powerful. It was the signal of the discursive and political shift to talking about, but they are the absolute minimum. And I implore you to expand your commitment and to turn that commitment into real concrete actions, legislatively, judicially, in each of your jurisdictions, and to consider first and foremost what must we do to stop the genocidal onslaught.
This is about more than Palestine. She's talking about reshaping the entire international order. Now, she's moving to her final argument, that this is a moment of choice for the international community. And watch how emotional she gets here. This is where she drops the UN neutrality completely and speaks directly to Palestinians as an activist.
For the Palestinians, especially in Gaza, this question today is existential. But it really is applicable to the humanity of all of us. And in this context, my responsibility here is to recommend to you uncompromisingly and dispassionately the cure for the root cause. We are long past the time to deal with the symptoms and the comfort zone of too many these days. And my words will show that what the Hague Group has committed to do and considering expanding upon is the basic commitment to what's just and due based on your obligations under international law. Obligations, not sympathy, not charity. Each state must immediately review and suspend all ties with the State of Israel. Military, strategic, political, diplomatic, economic relations, both imports and exports, and to make sure that their private sectors, insurers, banks, pension funds, universities, and other goods and service providers in the supply chain do the same. Treating the occupation as business as usual translates into supporting and providing aid and assistance to the unlawful presence of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. The same that the International Court of Justice in July last year has ordered to end totally and unconditionally, and that the General Assembly has ordered this to happen by September this year. I will have the opportunity to elaborate on the technicalities and legal implications in our further sessions today. But let's be clear why I argue that it's time to cut ties with Israel as a whole. Cutting ties only with the components of it in the occupied Palestinian territory would be addressing the symptoms once again. This is in line with international law, especially at the moment that Israel is accused of committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide in front of the two highest international tribunals that we have, the ICC and the ICJ. As I argue in my last report to the Human Rights Council, the Israeli economy is structured to sustain the occupation and has now turned genocidal. It is impossible to disentangle Israel's state policy and economy from its long-standing policies and economy of occupation. It has been inseparable for decades. We just pretended not to want to see. The longer states and others stay engaged, the more this illegality at its heart is legitimized, and the complicity continues and grows. Now that the economy has turned genocidal, there is no good Israel and bad Israel. We need to face it. So I ask you to consider this moment as if we were sitting here in the 1990s, discussing the case of apartheid South Africa. Would you have proposed selective sanctions on South Africa for its conduct in the individual Bantustans? Or would you have recognized the state's criminal system as a whole? And here, what Israel is doing compared to what South Africa has done during the apartheid regime is worse. The comparison is a legal and factual assessment supported by international legal proceedings many in the rooms are part of. This is what concrete measures mean. Negotiating with Israel on how to manage what remains of Gaza and the West Bank, being in Brussels or in New York, is an utter dishonor to international law. And let me conclude. And let me conclude with a word to the Palestinians and those from all corners of the world standing by them. Sorry. Okay, I start again. With age, I'm becoming emotional. And to the Palestinians and those from all corners of the world standing by them, often at great cost and sacrifice, I say, whatever happens, Palestine will have written this tumultuous chapter, not as a footnote in the chronicles of would-be conquerors, but as the newest verse in a centuries-long saga of peoples who have risen against injustice, against colonialism, and today more than ever, against neoliberal tyranny. Thank you so much.
That was a UN official openly calling for regime change through economic warfare. Whether you agree or not, this represents a complete breakdown of traditional diplomacy. And the timing matters. She's speaking in the Global South, hosted by countries already moving in this direction. This isn't just rhetoric, it's coordination. The question now is whether this accelerates international action or just isolates her within the UN system. Either way, the diplomatic approach to Israel-Palestine just fundamentally changed.